And then I heard you were coming, so.
I don't even know if I'm here or not.
Wow. Is she coming back? I mean, is she there for good, or was she just visiting? Wow. 'Cause she wasn't coming for a while.
Micki,
And she would come every
you
now
want
and
to move you over
again,
there?
but not.
Do you have a seat here? Do you need to move it over there?
Yeah, I'm going to sit there because I need more room for my computer and stuff.
Karen, that was a lion.
I don't think it hit me.
Yeah.
It hit the chair.
Yeah, I know, I was wondering too.
I call this meeting of the Central Florida Facilitators Toastmaster Club number 9958 to order. Welcome everyone for coming tonight. The mission of a Toastmasters Club is to provide a supportive and positive learning experience in which members are empowered to develop communication and leadership skills, resulting in greater self-confidence and personal growth. If you have a cell phone, if you please put it in silent mode at this time. There is a restroom located on the corner to your left facing the entrance. I just ask if you leave the room, if you please not wander beyond the hallway. We have one change to make to our agenda. Pat Stogner is unable to be here tonight, so I will be serving as the Sergeant of Arms and will be leading the thought and pledge. Charlie Bombalier will be Evaluator number 2. As our theme tonight is movies, for our thought of the day, I selected a quote from the movie The Unusual Suspects by Kevin Spacey. The greatest trick the devil ever pulled was convincing the world he didn't exist. Please stand and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Please help me welcome our President, Toni G.
Welcome, everybody.
Hello.
How are you?
We're here.
You're here.
Yeah. We dried off.
That's good news. Welcome to Central Florida Facilitators Toastmaster Club. For our guests this evening, we are called the Facilitators for 3 reasons. One, we were sponsored by the Central Florida chapter of the American Society of Training and Development. And this is a professional organization for professional facilitators. Second, a good facilitator needs to be a strong communicator and an effective leader, and that's what Toastmasters is all about, leadership and communication. 3, to facilitate means to make things simple and easy. We want to make things simple and easy for you tonight. We hope you have a good time and that the evening provides value as you work toward achieving your individual goals. We have 2 guests this evening. We have a returning guest, Pablo. Would you like to stand up? Tell us why you're here.
Hi, how are you? My name is Pablo. Forma AG is the name of the company. And I'm very excited. I'm going to enroll today because I believe that this is going to help me a lot in my personal life and my business in here. So I really appreciate being here. Thank you.
Linda Earls is from FIS Global. How did you happen to come tonight, Linda?
Actually, I'm a returning guest because I came with Lynn to the auction.
Oh yeah, that's right.
And I'm attending because my position ended at FIS. which you have to be an employee to go to that Toastmasters, so I'm checking out the area in Toastmasters for a new home.
We're the best.
Thank you.
Yeah, we're the best. Okay. No auction tonight. You didn't need to bring your checkbook. We have an officers meeting after the meeting, and we'll talk about that in the final announcements. I've distributed an invitation to our guests for the June 19th banquet. We have a semi-annual banquet where we give awards, and we have the installation of the new officers. Then we have a very special event on June 30th, Sunday. It's a Sunday afternoon, which is our 10th anniversary of our charter. Our charter date was June 30th, 2003. So it's going to be a big, fun event. Not a lot of Toastmastering, but you'll hear a few speeches, and we may have a take topic session, but it's mostly eating and networking and meeting some of our past members, hopefully, who will be there. We have an educational moment this evening. Please welcome Julian C, our educational.
Good evening, fellow Toastmasters, welcome guests. My educational moment today is about public speaking. Imagine that at a Toastmasters meeting. Now, it has been said that public speaking is about making points and telling stories. And the challenge of most beginners is taking all that content that they develop and then rewriting it in a form of stories so that they're entertaining and you grab the audience's attention. But in telling the story, you have to take what's called a dramatic position. And that's how the story comes to life. And actors do that all the time. That's why they are believable. So when you are presenting a story, and let's say that you're saying, oh, I held her in my arms and she died, or you say, I was holding her in my arms. She died. Makes a big difference, right? So that's what taking a dramatic position means. You've got to get into the story of what you're telling so that you can help your audience relive that with you. And that's what taking a dramatic position it's all about. And it's an advanced topic and it does take practice, but you start developing if you're conscious of it. Thank you, Madam.
Because I remembered to introduce the educational moment this week, I have two more things that I forgot to talk about under my president's hat. We have two more guests. They're mini Toastmasters. Jonathan, would you like to introduce them?
This is my daughter Kaylee, and my son Gunnar. They're here visiting 2 weeks, and I was super excited to bring him here to a Toastmasters and experience a very high energy situation. And they comprehend that any skill that I have, they can have that skill too. So we all know how scary public speaking is, so that's why they're here.
Thank you, Jonathan. Glad to have you here. The other was an order of business that I'm supposed to pay attention to. We have an opening for the Sergeant at Arms for the July to December term. All those in favor, Charlie?
Second and third and first.
I think we got it.
Okay, you seconded it.
Roll for
Okay.
it.
So there's a nomination, right, for Charlie?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay, from Julian. Who's the real second?
Second.
Okay, Liz is the second. Charlie, would you like to come up here and tell us why you'd like to be Sergeant of Arms? Sergeant at Arms.
The reason that I'm doing this is because there's no one else that's volunteered in the last couple of weeks. And actually I owe it to the club because they've done so much for me. Every one of you that's been here for a while has helped me mature in my speaking abilities and in many other ways. So I think it's just part for me it's right for me to give back a little bit to the club, and that's the reason that I enjoy doing this for you guys. Thank you.
Are there any other nominations from the floor?
Motion to close nominations?
Do I hear a second?
Second.
All those in favor of Charlie Bombalier for Sergeant at Arms, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, please say nay. The motion passes. Congratulations, Charlie and Amy. Born in 1972 to two amazing parents, Linda and Russell, and father to two amazing children, Gunnar and Kaylee, is our Toastmaster tonight, Jonathan Dunn. He received his bachelor's degree in education from the University of Central Florida and his master's degree in fitness science from the International Sports Sciences Association. He believes the lesson his mother taught him as a 5-year-old boy is probably the wisest thing he has ever heard. Son, just treat others how you would like to be treated, and the whole wide world will open up itself to you. It is my honor to introduce you to Jonathan Dunn as he achieves Advanced Communicator Bronze this evening with his task as Toastmaster. Please put your hands together.
Good evening, my fellow Toastmasters, distinguished guests, and my children, Kaylee and Gunnar. The silver screen, the movies, what sort of emotions and images does that conjure up inside of you? Is it the smell of popcorn? Maybe you were there on your first date. You were so excited as the tickets popped out. The fountain drinks, the candy, the stories that you've seen. I love the movies as much as anyone. I'm so geeked up that it's summer movie time. And I thought to myself, what direction would I send this in? So here it is. Recently, I read the book and viewed the film, The 5 People That You Meet in Heaven. And part of the premise of the story is the main character fixed amusement park rides for his whole life. That was his career. And he thought to himself, did my life mean anything? So like the movie The Christmas Carol, he got to see a glimpse. He had thought his life meant nothing to anybody. And I don't know if you all know this, but the last year of my life has been pretty dark. But yet I've come here week after week after week after week. So like Charlie was saying earlier when he came up for his nomination, if you ever wonder if your life has made a difference at all, absolutely understand that it has to me. And this was a great place of solace in the last year. So that's where I'll go first. What movies sometimes teach us? What have they taught you? What feelings have you experienced? And as Lynn already did a great job reviewing the agenda, and I want to just go ahead and tail end off that. This is an amazing agenda. I am super glad that I got to be Toastmaster tonight. And I can just sit back and enjoy this well-oiled machine. I'm thrilled to be getting to watch Stephen speak. I'm always thrilled to watch Toni, who I definitely consider a mentor, speak, as well as everybody else perform their roles. These meetings would not be possible without a lot of support. In our meetings, we refer to the support as functionaries. So before we launch into the speakers, why don't we go ahead and get a functionary report, starting with our guest and contributor as grammarian, Linda Earls.
My role today as grammarian is to pick a word of the day to improve our grammar and word use. I will also comment on scintillating eloquence. You will hear the report of the folks that use scintillate correctly and incorrectly. I will also tattle on awkward use and misuse of the language if I catch it, and if I can suggest a correction.
Thank you, Linda. One of my favorite people in the world, our timer, Miss Susan Morgan.
As the timer this evening, I will time all the speeches, the table topic speeches, and the evaluations, because in Toastmasters, one of the things we learn is how to stay on time. And that's what I'll be doing this evening. We have a few speeches that are a little awkward, but I have it all written down. Toni, I want to make sure you're 7 to 9.
Yes.
Okay. All righty, then we're set and ready to go, Mr. Toastmaster.
Thank you, Susan. It is time for one of my favorite people in the world, a lady who gives and gives and gives. It's truly astounding to watch. That would be our counter, Miss Micki.
I don't know how much I'm going to hear tonight because I feel like my brain is scintillating. Anyways, my responsibility tonight is to keep track of audible clutches such as us, ums, and double clutches, which is the repetition of a word, where the speaker thinks of their next word. I will also note sentences strung together with bridges, words like and or so. I will report at the end of the meeting where I noted any of these transactions. I will try to use the buzzer. So when I will sound the buzzer, I will sound the buzzer when I hear any of these instructions. The buzzer is not to embarrass the speaker, only to give immediate feedback. It may also stimulate an ability to get past distractions that invariably occur during the speech. Guests and members who have not given yet their icebreaker speech are not normally buzzed. Where fines are imposed, which is our club, the fine for each infraction is 10 cents. Guests and members who have not given their icebreaker speech yet will not be fined. But I will keep track of their infractions to help them improve their speaking ability. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Micki. And last, but not certainly least, a Toastmaster who has burst onto the scene with loads and loads of contribution, our vote counter, Miss Patty Herrera.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Patty Herrera, and as vote counter, I will pick up, my back. I will pick up your ballots for best speaker, best table topic speaker, best evaluator, and most improved speaker. I will tally your results at the for award presentations, at the end of the meeting. I will also pick up your comments that you may have written for the speakers on any meeting participant and deliver the comments to the appropriate person. Thank you.
Thank you. I want you guys to know that since last week, I missed you like a pig misses his slop. I missed you like I miss having a rock in my shoe. Those are actually quotes from one of my favorite filmmakers. Even if he is a little bit odd, it probably won't surprise you that I enjoy Quentin Tarantino films. But before I launch into the speakers tonight, once again, an exceptional lineup. What was the very first movie that you ever saw? How old were you? How did it make you feel? My very first movie that I ever saw, my parents were dirt poor. We had a 1977 blue Ford station wagon. They're the most honest people you would ever meet in your life. But they hid my brother and sister and myself under a blanket in the back when we went to the drive-in and saw Jaws. It was my very first movie. I love it to this day. And I still at the beach get a little scared to go in the water. Our next speaker will be presenting the Effective Salesperson Project from Persuasive Speaking Manual. Mr. Stephen Morgan has been practicing hypnosis for over 25 years, doing everything from spiritual work to clinical work to stage shows, everything in between. In tonight's speech, Stephen will be attempting to sell the benefits of hypnosis as a way to help solve a particular problem. Please welcome Advanced Toastmaster Gold, Stephen Morgan with Change the World, Change a Mind.
Thank you, Mr. Toastmaster, fellow Toastmasters and guests. This particular project, the Effective Salesperson project out of the Persuasive Speaking Manual, is one of those role-play projects. And the way those projects all work is that first section, there are 3. In the first section, I'm supposed to actually describe the process that I'm then supposed to demonstrate in the role play. And afterwards, a question and answer discussion, open discussion for a couple minutes. The process that was described here within the Effective Salesperson project is how to sell or help someone decide to buy what is supposed to be a small ticket item. The idea would be you're going into the store for something that's essentially a commodity. It's not going to cost that much. It's not a big deal which one you choose, just how are you going to make that decision. Now, I've changed this a little bit because I'm not trying to sell a product. I'm trying more to sell a service. But it's not an expensive one. That's the way I'm approaching it in this case. The process that's described goes through several steps. And I actually want to change that a little bit because the process that they have in place describes how you might help someone reach the decision as to what to buy. And what they did is they chose one particular process that works for a fair set of people. And the truth is that no one process works for everyone. And coming from the hypnosis training itself and the neurolinguistic programming, everyone makes their decisions a different way. And what, as a salesperson, you ideally want to do is to figure out how your customer, potential customer, makes their decisions. Therefore, in order to figure that out, you want to build a strong rapport with the person and pay close attention to the cues they give you verbally and through body language as to how they're going to go about making their decisions. So are they someone who wants to come around, they want to hear what is interesting about their item and see if they're going to find the solution? Do they want to be someone who wants to pick it up and hold it before they know that they've found what they want? I'm listening for those cues, if you caught it, whether they would hear or see or feel. In what order that they do this? And at what point will they know they have reached their decision? You find this out by asking questions. You'll be asking questions of the person, specifically what their problem is. They want to tell you. So get them to talk. Here's the key part that most salespersons have to catch on to. You get them to talk. You don't talk. You do want to keep the discussion going, but the whole point is you need to get the feedback in order to be able to help them reach the decision they want in the way they're going to make it. If you don't follow their decision process, if you try to hammer everyone into a square hole and they've got a round peg, you're going to have people who say, no thank you, walk away. How many people go into the stores and go, I just don't want a salesperson to walk up to me because I don't want to have to deal with them? Everyone gets in that mood. And yet, when you want one, where are they? Because you're finally ready to make a decision. That is the process that I'll be going through here. It's more abstract than the one presented in the manual because I've stepped up to a level of I need to find out how that decision will be made and then help that decision to be made. In order to do this, to demonstrate it, I'm going to be doing the role play. At this point, Jonathan has offered to play the role here. This role play is not scripted. We only have done a basic scenario, so I don't know what he's going to say. He doesn't know what I'm going to say, and I'm just going to try and see where it goes, and hopefully it will work. So please welcome Jonathan to help me out here. Hello there.
Hello, sir.
How are you doing today? You came here, obviously, for something related to hypnosis, so I'm curious what it is that I could help you with.
I have a huge issue of overcommitting myself
Okay.
and being very tired, not wanting to do anything.
Oh, goodness. With this issue, what is it that you're hoping to solve in the end? Is it just stop committing to things, or is it completing things? Where is that you see yourself heading with it?
I would like to learn the skill of saying no and not feeling bad about it.
So saying no just makes you feel bad. Are there other situations you've had where you had to say no and it didn't feel so bad? No.
I can't think of anything off the top of my head.
Okay. When you end up with hypnosis, there's a few different ways that can go about it. Most of the time it's related to something that you've experienced in the past, and since it's a repetitive behavior, it just ends up compounding. So if you have an idea as to how you think hypnosis in particular is going to be able to help you in this case, are you seeking to change that habit? Are you interested in that emotional underpinning, addressing that? If you're ready, are you ready for that? Which way do you see myself?
The latter. There's something that's happened to me at some point in my life where I want to get to the source.
How will you know that you've achieved what you're looking for, that you found what you need?
I guess you'll have to ask me to do something that I would normally say yes to and see if I say no. And to be honest, if it feels bad.
So you'll do me a favor and you'll have to tell me no.
I'll be transparent, I can tell you.
Oh, the blue one there. Do you think hypnosis is what you seek to find the solution for this?
I am a full court press kind of guy. I don't rule anything out, so I'm willing to give anything a chance.
What else have you tried?
Well, I went to that class in California for a week, and that did help me with some things, but certainly not that one.
Not that one. So not even for a little period of time, you still had that
Right.
same problem.
A prime example is this. I was BPPR, and I didn't do a very good job at it. And I see you come in and doing all this awesome stuff, and I'm like, you know, and I know, you know, and I just should never done it to begin with. Because I was so, you know, overcommitted as it was.
Is it necessary for you to be better than everyone else?
That's when we were just in this back and forth dialogue, I started thinking that very thing like Charlie was willing to give back, and I'm like, God, this has done a lot for me. So I was feeling bad even as he was saying that, because it's the truth, what he said. But it's like, you know, you gotta have your limits, and, you know, there's some judgments going on there for sure.
What I can tell you that I can have to offer, hypnosis is really good for, it's ideal for any emotional issues, because that's where we're getting right to where the emotions are. And anything related to what's happened in the past is very helpful there. I cannot guarantee like one session,
Sure.
I cannot guarantee anything in the end, because a big part of it is how much you're willing to do, how much you're ready to change, how willing at that point. Of course, the rapport as well. If you're not comfortable with me, there's only so much I'll be able to do. But I could refer you to someone else, because I know a lot of hypnotists in that case. Generally, the approach I would say is I always say start one time. I usually block 2 hours, and they're usually done within an hour, but leave the time available for whatever it works out. And since I normally, I think the website says 150, but I normally will do 100 for that first shot. And that's to see what we can find. What I've been looking for is the process is to sit there and dig into what is underneath. What is that feeling underneath, and where did that come from? Why is it there? Well, how is it serving you? Because it wouldn't be there if it's not serving you in some fashion or form. It may not seem to make much sense consciously, it usually doesn't, but subconsciously there's a reason it's there. And once we get to that point, find a way to help you change that, realize where the change is supposed to go, so that the subconscious can make that change. Now, if that's a process that sounds good to you, we can set up a time. You're ready for that, and then we'd be able to sit down and see where that leads. Does that sound like an idea for you?
I would be totally happy with that.
All right, then we'll sit down to the time for that, right before the red light gets on. At this point, 2 to 3 minutes has been allocated for question and answer, open discussion. Part of it is, I don't know how much of the process I necessarily put in place, because he certainly had a good idea of what he was looking for up front, and pushing for a decision was not, in my opinion, really hard. But if anyone has any other feedback or suggestions to offer, happy to hear them at this point.
A comment. It was interesting to listen to you guide the conversation, ask her questions, because they, definitely led to your getting the information that you needed. When you didn't get it, you came up with another question. So formulating questions, I think, is one of the most difficult things that we are involved in when we're selling a product or service, but just in general conversations as well. So any way you can kind of summarize what you did or hit the highlights so we can have it clear in our mind how to do that?
More table topics.
Yeah, I understand.
Okay. For that one. In this particular, since I'm looking primarily for the strategy he uses for making the decision, I was trying to figure out the way he was thinking.
Mm-hmm.
And although most of you have seen Jonathan speak, his demeanor was very different up here. He didn't catch it, and it was quite actually interesting. He shifted from what is normally from the outgoing and very visual person that he normally comes out as. He came to a very inward-facing, a very kinesthetic person. So I was keeping my tone down to match his. That's how you build rapport, to match the person who's there. So I was trying to match body language as much as I could, and tone of voice, and volume along the way. Just because rapport, really, all people prefer others resembling themselves, if you want a good acronym. So be like that person if you want to build the rapport. At that point, it was, since he was behaving in that way, I was asking questions more of the kinesthetic style, how feeling, where's the feeling, that's why I get the emotion underneath. That's why I was going in that direction. Otherwise, honestly, just get them to talk about themselves. Because everyone's usually quite happy to talk about themselves. Once you get them going, they'll keep talking. You just prod them along here and there with another question. What do you think? How do you feel? From there.
Thank you.
Any other questions, feedbacks?
How can you tell if the person is honest? Can you tell by your questions, not knowing the person that well, that they're being honest? Is that
No.
something that you...
No, there's no way to be sure of that.
Okay.
And even to be, aside from that, the person may be deluding themselves, even in that case. From the neurolinguistic programming point of view, if you like to play with that, then what you're looking for are incongruencies in their behavior patterns, which is usually the way they talk versus the way their body's moving, and if their body's uncomfortable. Some people like to play with the eye movements because the general concept being that if they're looking up to the left generally means they think, people say, oh, they're lying. No, it's not they're lying. Up means you're visual. To the left means you're constructing. Doesn't mean you're lying, but you are constructing something, maybe reconstructing how to say what to say, but that's the best I can suggest. Since time's run out at this point, I shall return control back to the Toastmaster.
May we have 1 minute on the clock, please? Please give Stephen your comments so that he can grow. Thank you, Madam Timer. Our next speaker, Ms. Toni Giddles, has been a member of Central Florida Facilitators for 9 years. as a current club president, former club president 3 times, and vice president of education 1 time, she has been actively involved in overseeing and contributing to the club's success in becoming President's Distinguished over the years, time and time again. As we approach being a distinguished club for the 10th time, we have one more requirement to fulfill prior to June 30th. Learn how the officers monitor this program throughout the Toastmaster year. Please welcome, with a round of applause, Ms. Toni G.
Are we there yet? Are we there yet? Mr. Toastmaster, fellow Toastmasters, and our welcome guests. As president, over the past 6 months, I've talked to you on numerous occasions about achieving President's Distinguished, the highest award given to a club by Toastmasters International. What I wanted to do, a lot of the officers already know how this is achieved, but you know what? It's not too soon to do our planning for next year. So in addition to giving you some information, I thought I would use this session as a jumping off point for us to take some notes and monitor how we're going to achieve the 11th year of President's Distinguished. But as Julian mentioned under his breath, we are not there yet. We have from July 1st of last year to June 30th of this year to accomplish 10 items on Toastmaster International's agenda. And in front of you, you have information which guides us toward achieving President's Distinguished. Now, do we have to do this? Absolutely not. We don't have to do this. There's clubs that don't bother. They don't even bother to get 1 point. Well, that's how they run their club. But that's not how we run this club. We want the awards because what the award means is that we're running the club effectively. That you have a goal when you come here, and we are working very hard and very effectively to help you reach that goal. And we do it by using the communication and the leadership program manuals to help you get where you're going. And even though everybody starts out in the same manuals, and you may have a different goal, Pablo from Linda, you might have different goals. The program is designed so you will achieve whatever goal you come here for, as long as we know what that is, so we can coach you and mentor you and help you toward that direction. Now, I am giving a speech today from the Successful Club series, and I have given several programs from this series before. But the reason that I'm telling you specifically about this is because when you give 2 successful club series programs and are working toward an advanced communicator designation or an advanced leadership designation, this qualifies you. You don't even have to write the script. It's all in here. But you know what? I'm not going to read it, because I pretty much know how the program works. But I wanted you to know that if you ever have to give a speech and you don't know what to do, you call the Vice President of Education and say, get me that Successful Club program booklet. Or you can go online and find it. And there's such a choice of what you can talk about that you'll find something that is of interest to you. So let's get back to the program itself. Over the course of the last 6 months, I have been telling you how many points we have. And any of the officers can go to the website, Toastmasters International, go to our club information page, and get the report. Now, this is the most exciting one in the past 6 months, because at the very bottom here, it says 10. And that was our goal. 10 points. And 10 for 10. 10 distinguished, President's Distinguished Ribbons in 10 years. So we are almost there. Now you might say, well, we've got the points. What's the problem? Why are we there yet? Why are we there yet? Do you know? What is it, Susan?
Membership.
Why aren't we there yet? Ah, there's a membership requirement. We must have, there goes that Marco Rubio mouth again. Excuse me. Sorry. We are required to have 20 members. Just like chartering, you're required to have 20 members. Now we actually have 20 members listed on our roster, but Patty, our latest member, one of the latest members, was a transfer, and they don't count her. No matter how many phone calls I make, and Lynn makes, and how many times she shows up at a meeting, they won't give us credit for her. That's why, Pablo, you're chained to the desk, because we're gonna be there at 8:30 tonight. So we are almost there. Now, we don't work blindly on anything in Toastmasters. You've got a communication manual, you're working in your leadership manual, and we have all sorts of manuals as officers. And there's a Distinguished Club Program and Club Success Plan manual. And it's available online, and we probably have a hard copy of it. And it tells us exactly, page by page, in quite a bit of detail, what the program is about, and actually how to prepare a successful plan to achieve your goals. And it's quite a long manual, so it's quite a lot of direction should the officers require that kind of direction. Now, we have a lot of members in the club who have been through this quite a number of times. So I'm recalling at my successful planning meeting, we didn't follow the manual, but we still created a plan. Now, I didn't actually know about that manual when I was Vice President of Education. So I created an Excel spreadsheet that created the names of the people that were going to complete the different goals. And then we followed that month by month. Membership changes, people leave for various reasons. And so this becomes a work in progress, a dynamic plan. So we may have had 10 people were going to complete their Competent Communicator Manual, where we need 4, but we had 10, but you know what? We ended with 4. So that's kind of why you have to pay attention to it on a regular basis, because people have work commitments, they have family commitments, they change jobs, they may not find a Toastmaster club that they want to go to if they move to another location. So many reasons people don't continue with the program. But let's just take a look at these and see what our plan might begin to look like for next year. So you have this form in front of you. Each of these is worth 1 point. Sometimes there's a couple of things that you have to do, but it's described here. And they include educational goals, membership goals, training goals, and administrative goals. So it's not just about the education. We're getting trained in leadership and accomplishing goals that are set forth for us. So now 1 point will be given when 2 people achieve their CC. So who are those people going to be next June 30th? By a show of hands, who are those people going to be? Susan, you're working in a manual? But we're going to write Susan's name down on our tracking sheet. Patty, your name's going down, honey. Lynn, your name's down. That's how we do it. We tell people what their goals are.
We only need 2, not 3.
No, we're going to get everybody in the club who's a possibility, because what happened this year? you know, what happens usually is the advanced leadership ones don't get done. Or, for example, Gail's been trying to finish her DTM for a year now. Now, when Gail didn't finish it last year, we had to put slide somebody in there. That's right. So that's what we're going to do. Go through each of the items. We're going to figure out who's going to accomplish them. So I'm sure Julian, our new Vice President of Education, will be talking with you to let you know. Lynn's actually going to create a plan before she leaves office to turn it over so that the next group of officers can manage the educational program. Oh well, red light. One, I got another handout here. Now, before Charlie volunteered this evening, I submitted our officer list. That's one thing on the plan there. It doesn't give us a point, but we have to do this twice for both terms. So that's an idea of what you'll encounter and what the officers, particularly the president and the vice president of education, are paying attention to as we go through the year. Sometimes not a lot happens the first 6 months, you know, especially in a new club, or a lot of people have finished their plan for the year. It may take 6 months or so for some to get the first awards. It doesn't matter. We have 12 months to achieve the awards. Mr. Toastmaster.
May we get 1 minute on the clock so that you can fill in your comments for Toni? 1 minute on the clock.
What? It's a bracelet.
Miss Morgan, may we have a timer's report for all of our speakers?
Absolutely. And might I say, this evening, they were all very scintillating. Got it in there. For Stephen, he had 3 parts to his speech. He spoke for 3 minutes and 54 seconds for the first section, 4 minutes 54 seconds for the second section, and 3 minutes 19 seconds for the third section, with a total of 11 minutes and 27 seconds, so he does qualify. He went within his. And Toni, she was supposed to speak 7 to 9 minutes, and she spoke 10 minutes and 24 seconds, so she does not qualify this evening. We will have another speaker, or almost. I think he automatically qualifies.
Yeah, I don't know what you're supposed to vote for tonight. I'm going to go ahead and take ownership on that. This is actually one of my speaking projects, so maybe the club president will let us know. Oh wait, she's engaged in a conference.
Oh, hello. Yes.
Did we handle Jonathan's qualification for best speaker? Does he?
This is a speaking project, so I don't know if I'm supposed to get voted for or not.
He's
Just
not done yet, either.
Yeah.
He's the Toastmaster.
Well, we never have in the past.
Sure,
Several
it's all good
people
by
have
me.
been through the
I meant to
manual.
ask you on an email.
I don't know if
earlier.
that was done properly, but several people have done this project, so.
Good. So we do not need to vote for best speaker tonight. And speaking of those speakers, they were very scintillating, weren't they? Now, earlier I had mentioned that Jaws was my favorite movie. What's your favorite movie snack? Do you actually bite at the concession stand, or do you do what I do and buy Reese's king-size packs and wear them in your pockets on the way in? And I would venture to say I would buy them if they sold them there at the theater. My favorite movie was Jaws. Anybody remember the music? Dun, dun, dun. I have this weird feeling that as we approach the next portion of our meeting, table topics, that many of you get that song in your head and kind of hope that the table topics master won't notice you. Our table topics master tonight, one of my favorite guys in the world, totally selfless, Julian Cotto. Julian loves movies. Some of his favorite movies include musicals by Fred Astaire and Ginger Rogers, Cary Grant in Kaleidoscope. I guess he's showing his age. The Matrix, most recently The Girl with the Dragon Tattoo, trilogy in the Swedish version. That's quite a tongue twister. Julian would rather watch a good movie well, almost as much as sex. Julian is a smart guy. He actually has convinced his wife they can't afford pay channels. So all of his movies he watches have commercial breaks that are 2 minutes long. So Julian gets to accomplish both. He's a double hitter. He's mesmerized by a good storyline. Julian has been a member of the Central Florida Facilitators for 2 years, and over that time, I can attest, has made significant improvements to his presentations thanks to the example of excellence provided by the members of the club, especially Toni G. Julian. Please welcome past president, current treasurer, future vice president of education, Julian Cotto, as he takes us through the journey of movies.
Thank you, Mr. Toastmaster, for that scintillating introduction. You are a hard act to follow. Good evening, fellow Toastmasters and welcome guests. So tonight we're going to focus on movies. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to give you lines of certain movies and have you try to run with it. Movies there's so many great movies and so many good lines from movies that I think we'll have a lot of fun getting into the spirit of things. Now, this will put you back in the 1930s. And of course, language was used differently. But Fred Astaire made a movie with Ginger Rogers called The Gay Divorcee. Charlie, what about the gay, what if you were the gay divorcee? What would that mean?
Wow, that's a topic. Since I know nothing about that movie, I have heard of some other movies that are better than that one that you chose for me. I have to say that I would think that movie meant somebody was gay trying to fall in love with a woman. And it didn't work out. So I'm going to assume that at the end, he decided that, you know, I can dance just as well with a woman as I can with a man. So let me switch sides here and dance with the men. That way, I'll be gay more ways than one. And this is really hard to keep this going. But I would assume that that's basically the theme of this movie that I ever saw. And probably there's a good chance that the woman was gay too, and she was probably happy to get rid of this gay guy so she could go with her gay girl. And out of here.
Well, back in the 1930s, gay had a different connotation. It actually meant happy-go-lucky. But we've changed that. Hey, big boy, is that a pistol in your pocket or just glad to see me? Susan Morgan.
Mr. Table Topics Master, yes, I remember hearing that quote before in several movies, but I'm sure the first one was way back when. Sounds something like, what's her name? That's it. And some have kind of said I'm Mae West-ish. So, whatever. I honestly don't have anything to say about that. And I'm going to tell you about my first movie, like Jonathan was talking about. And my very first movie, I was about 5 years old, came home from school, I think it was a Friday afternoon, and my mom said, hurry up, quick, get in the car. We're going to see a movie. What movie? Oh, you'll see when we get there. Oh, Mom. And we got there, and she said, it's called The Sound of Music. Well, I loved music, so I thought, well, this should be a pretty good thing because it's about music. But I was still just a little bit, antsy, and I'm 5 years old. But that movie started, and I was entranced. And the biggest thing I remember from that movie was that I fell in love with the captain. And I've always loved Christopher Plummer ever since. So that's my first movie experience. And that was wonderful. And it didn't have anything to do with a gun in my pocket. Or his pocket.
Thank you, Susan. It's elementary, my dear Watson. Pablo?
Well, you know that I love that movie, Sherlock Holmes, the new one. I never saw the oldie one, but definitely is that movie becomes one of my favorites because in the 80s when I was starting looking at this type of movies with Robert Downey Jr. and I saw that decadence that he has because of the drugs and the sex and doing all that things, bad things for him. And one of that movies reminds me that everything is possible because now he is all clean and becoming a huge star in Hollywood, doing all these movies and doing projects and helping the community and everything to stay out of problems. So every time that I saw that, I also think about like what Charlie Sheen is going on right now, but basically is thinking everything that you're doing that is dark or you're in a hole, you can scintillate in any moment. So that's
Awesome. Thank you.
Yeah.
Neo, you are the one. Linda.
Could you repeat the very first
Neo, you are the one.
I think I'm going to have to completely make it up because I thought I heard wrong, but I will go with Nemo because I don't know the other quote. So I'm going to talk about fish. And one time I had a wonderful fish tank, and during the night my poor fish jumped out of the fish tank and landed on the floor. And my cat came along and was licking him. When I got up in the morning, the cat was licking him. And the cat looked at me as if to say, I was just trying to keep him wet. That he was getting a little taste of him, you know. So other than that, my experiences with fish tanks in general went well until mine developed a tiny leak and it started running down the side of my cabinetry, and it became worse and worse until I was running to get a new tank thinking, oh, my fish are going to be flopping on the bottom of it with no water there. But all in all, I've had a good experience with fish.
I am mad as hell and I can't take it anymore.
I had an assignment at school to read a script, and I read exactly this one, which of course I don't remember the name of the movie. Can you tell me the name of the movie?
I don't remember.
Norma Ray.
What was it?
Norma Ray?
No.
Something
It was
news.
an old, like, 70s movie.
Yeah.
I
Broadcast
read
news.
exactly
Broadcast.
Broadcast
yeah.
news.
Broadcast.
Anyway, I'm not going to talk about that, of course, because I don't have imagination, and I cannot make up anything now. But I'm going to talk about my very first movie, the movie that I remember as being the very first one. And it's a movie that I watched on TV. I think I was maybe 4 or 5 years old, I'm not sure. It was The Wizard of Oz. It was black and white TV, of course, at the time. It was after my parents had guests for dinner. Guests that gave me some chocolate liquor. Liquor. Like booze. I liked it because it was all chocolate and it was very thick. After they left, I started to watch the movie and I was like, I cannot believe that this TV set broke right now. The image was going like this over and over again. And I thought the TV broke. Actually, it was me drunk for the very first time in my life. And bye. Thank you.
Frankly, my dear, I don't give a damn, Patty.
I don't give a damn a lot. I have to say, and that's work, okay? Because here I do care a lot. And I love that movie, Gone with the Wind. And that is the best part. I don't care if I have to switch back and forth, but once you hook, and she says, Red, what am I gonna do, Red? Oh my God, Red, you can't just leave me here, Red. Frankly, darling, I don't give a damn. It's like, yes! And then she goes, oh, that's okay. Because tomorrow is another day. And I'm like, you gotta be kidding me. That's what it is in the South, right? Tomorrow is another day. And being originally from New York and knowing that time and money and everything moves in a New York minute, not here, not in the South. I hear it all the time. Patty, don't worry about it. Tomorrow is another day. And I'm supposed to say, well, you know what? Frankly, I don't give a damn.
Okay, well, and that concludes the fun and frolic for this evening. And I will ask Susan, our timer, for a timer report, please.
Charlie spoke about the gay divorcee for 1 minute and 7 seconds. I talked about the first movie and No Guns in My Pocket for 1 minute and 37 seconds, so I qualify. Pablo spoke about Sherlock and that stuff there, and that was 1 minute and 20 seconds, so he qualifies. Linda spoke about Nemo and the fish tank for 1 minute exactly. Great job. And Micki spoke about her first movie and The Wizard of Oz and getting drunk at 5 for 1 minute and 49 seconds. And Patty, if you would have just gone a couple seconds more, you would have qualified, but you had 58 seconds.
Oh, bummer.
So you do not qualify tonight.
She doesn't give it.
So you can go
I'm getting a
ahead and
t-shirt.
vote for any table topics, that speaker that you prefer, except for Patty. She
Yeah.
does not
Well,
qualify.
that's what I was a transfer anyway, right? I don't count.
Yeah, you don't count.
Your transfer, sorry.
No, you count.
And at some point, where's the vote count?
Patty.
At some point, Patty will go around and
At some point.
pick up
When she feels
votes.
like.
Yeah, exactly, when I feel like it. Yes.
Now, did you guys vote for best speaker? Or is that late?
No.
You did already?
There
You
was
don't
nothing
have
to
to
vote
vote
for.
for the best
Oh,
speaker.
nothing, that's right. Stephen ran.
Stephen ran with it.
Yeah, Stephen ran.
Tony ran.
Yeah, Tony ran with it over.
We're too loud. Anybody?
Now I'd like to introduce the general evaluator, correct?
Toastmaster.
For the
Toastmaster.
Toastmaster. A man who is a thought leader, a legend in his own imagination. Welcome back, our Toastmaster, the scintillating Jonathan Dunn.
Thank you, Julian, for the scintillating introduction back up here. Julian is a gamer in this Toastmaster industry. The guy brings it each and every night. He's a true pleasure to watch. Thinking of movies that are pleasures to watch, occasionally we find that movies make us cry our eyes out. So think for a second, as we enter into this final trifecta of this meeting, what movie really brought the tears on for you? There's been many for me, especially Saving Private Ryan. The opening scene and seeing what those young men gave for this country, I fell on the ground in a fetal position, and it blew my mind. And to know that my grandfather was in the D-Day invasion, it was heavy stuff. Movies about teachers are a very positive thing. As we enter into this last bit of this meeting, it's really my favorite section of the meeting. It's where we all get to practice listening, 2 ears, 1 mouth. No problem for myself. Listen and learn. And we get to teach one another. It's the evaluation portion of the meeting that we are headed into. To head that up, the job of the general evaluator is just what the name implies. An evaluator of anything and everything that takes place throughout this meeting. Leadership, mood, quality, timing, evaluation of all participants, other than the speakers. In addition, the general evaluator is responsible for the team of evaluators and for running the evaluation portion of the meeting. Our general evaluator this evening is Lynn. Polecat airs. It's a little inside joke. Lynn is very excited to have the opportunity to fill this role. She is an incredibly special, caring, giving person. Please help me welcome Lynn.
Thank you, Jonathan. Good afternoon, fellow Toastmasters, and a warm welcome to our guests. For the benefit of our guests, I am the general evaluator and I conduct the evaluation portion of our meeting. I will be calling on a team to assist me in giving feedback to our speakers, and I will evaluate the meeting as well. Help me welcome our first evaluator, Julian C to evaluate the speech given by Stephen Morgan.
Good evening, fellow Toastmasters, welcome guests, and Stephen Morgan. It's a pleasure to be up here to evaluate Stephen Morgan's speech. This speech was a persuasive speech, the sales process, and he did a great job of explaining what it was that he was supposed to do. He told us about the sales process that he actually changed, diverted from what the manual said, which is great because that way I know as an evaluator what I was to expect and also the audience what they were to expect. And he did a great job in not only explaining the sales process, but also demonstrating the sales process to us by a role play, which was also part of the manual. Now, he did ask very good sales questions that were open-ended to try to elicit a response and really get to the truth. The objective of any sales situation is really to get to the truth. Because if you don't know the truth about what the prospect really means, sometimes they don't even know, then you can't help them. Now, one of Stephen's, he's got many strengths. He's a very experienced speaker, but I love his awareness of where his hands are. And he says, well, over here, this happened, but over there, that other thing. And, you know, he explains things in a very good and methodical way with his hands, which are effective in supporting his presentation. And that's not an easy thing to do. A lot of times we have a hard time with what do we do with our hands. We keep them up here and we don't really, you know, express with our hands appropriately. He did move around the stage in a very well-intentioned way. He came hither and thither, but it wasn't a nervous walk back and forth without purpose or direction. That was another good example for us to learn how to do it effectively. Now, although this wasn't a very emotional speech, he did have vocal variety that kept it entertaining and kept our attention. It wasn't monotonous, even though it was a low energy type of discussion. A couple of things that I'd like to see better. I would have liked the introduction instead of just opening with an explanation of what you were going to do. If you maybe would have had some kind of a opening remark to bring us into what you were going to discuss in maybe in a more attracting way, have you know, or a rhetorical question or something of that sort. Maybe that would have brought a more dynamic introduction to your speech. Also, I noticed it, you know, it's a minor point, but I know you're a detail-oriented guy, but from time to time you tend to wobble. And part of it, I think, is because you kept your feet so close together that you were just trying to find your balance. Maybe if you stood at a more even stance, it would keep, because it's a lot harder to wobble like this than when you have your feet together. So it's just a couple of minor issues, but it was a great speech, a great presentation, and I learned a lot from it. Thank you. Madam General Evaluator.
Our second evaluator this evening will be Charlie Bomberlier to evaluate the speech given by Toni G. Please help me welcome Charlie Bomberlier.
General Evaluator, fellow Toastmasters, and welcome guests, especially Toni. The one thing that I have to point out is I love your animation today. You were absolutely alive. And that's really commendable to you, because sometimes you have a tendency to stay back here, we can't see your animation, but you stepped out and you really did great. Of course, as always, you're well organized. Your enthusiasm was exactly what was needed, because quite frankly, we all know that it's gotta be tremendously hard for the experience that you have to know for new people what you have to go through to achieve these goals that we achieve every year. It's just amazing. Most clubs really don't get halfway there. And it's because people like you that are so enthusiastic and persistent, you just never give up. And that's commendable to you. That's excellent. The other thing is, I like the way that you encourage everyone to take notes, because it's important for everybody to take notes and try to get together to achieve the goals that you're trying to put up. You obviously pointed out setting goals, which is an excellent thing for everybody to do, and it has to be repeated like you do all the time, because it's very easy to forget these things. The only thing I would say is you have to get a little bit better in your time management, because several times you've gone over your speeches, even though you know them basically by heart, but you like to talk, which is a good thing, being a Toastmaster. You know your goals. Your preparation, as I said, was excellent. Your subject knowledge is beyond compare. Your interest level was high for everybody paid attention to you. And I would say that it is super commendable to you as a distinguished Toastmaster that you can get up here time and time again and never give up hope. You just don't quit, and that's excellent. It was an excellent speech, Madam General Manager.
Thank you, Julian and Charlie. Those were excellent, very thorough evaluations. Fellow Toastmasters, not only do I have the privilege of being the general evaluator this evening, but I also have the privilege and the honor of evaluating Jonathan Dunn in his role as Toastmaster. Jonathan completed project number 5 of the Specialty Speeches Advanced Communication Manual, Introduce the Speaker. His objectives were to focus on the special occasion talk from the standpoint of the introducer, become knowledgeable in the functions of the Toastmaster role, and handle the introductions of the speakers. Jonathan, you were very scintillating. Shine like a star. Congratulations on doing such a superb job for your first role as Toastmaster. This is the first time that Jonathan has stepped up to fill the role of Toastmaster, and I was very impressed. He was very well prepared. He didn't skip a beat. He carried out the functions of the Toastmaster superbly. You warmed up the audience by emphasizing the theme and the significance of the theme to you. You used movie quotes to spark interest. I love the story of your first movie. You kept the audience engaged by asking us questions about the theme. You used humor to set the tone of the meeting. And you made sure that you always led the applause. I only noticed a couple of instances where you might not have applauded before the audience, and I think that was when you were introducing Micki and Julian. But you did a superb job. One of the objectives for project 5 was to handle the introductions. An introduction is, in essence, a speech with an opening, a body, and a conclusion. Now, I know that in this club, the role of the Toastmaster usually does not prepare the introductions for the speakers. The speakers prepare their own introductions and send them to the Toastmaster. However, for this project, I believe the objective for you was to write the introductions and, if able, to actually call the speakers and maybe get some information about their projects, ask some questions, about their background, so that the introductions would relate to the audience, the speaker to the audience, and tell the audience how the speakers were qualified to speak on the topic that they were speaking on. So that would be my only suggestion. I mean, if we were to do this project again in the future, or if you had another opportunity maybe to introduce someone, is to try to write the introduction. And I think, though, overall, that you did a very superb job. I was very impressed, and next time I sign up for Toastmaster, I will be contacting you. Thank you. Okay. Now we will move on to our timers report. Susan, if you could please give us a timers report.
Julian spoke for 3 minutes and 16 seconds, so he qualifies. Charlie for 2 minutes and 40 seconds, he qualifies. And Lynn, you spoke 3 minutes and 40 seconds, so you don't quite qualify. And that is my report, Madam General Evaluator.
Next, we'll hear from our grammarian, Lynn A, who has been listening for good uses of language as well as points for improvement. You may give your report, Lynn.
I have to say that we had about a mixed half and half use of the word, and Pablo used it, Julian used it, Susan used it, Micki used it, and Lynn used it, and we had some problems with pronunciation, which partially my fault because I did not put it on the grammatical pronunciations to make it easier, and the C is silent. So to help everyone out, you think of, it would be a sin to say this one wrong, and always start with simply. And also I liked Jonathan's "like a pig misses his slop." He missed us like that. And also "a hard act to follow," Julian. And I especially liked when Micki said about the chocolate liquor, like booze. That tickled my funny bone. Thank you.
The I counter tracks the use of verbal pauses, those ahs and ums that come out of our mouths while we think of the next thing to say and detract from our message. Our I counter is Micki D. Micki, would you please give us a report?
First of all, I have to say that I chose to not use this because I needed to take a nap, and it could have keeping me awake. Maybe next time. We have a few ums and double clutches, so what sounds here? Let's see. Stephen, 1 3 double clutches, 1 N. Toni, several so. Jonathan, nothing. Julian, 3 ums. 5 double clutches to N, Charlie, 2 ounce, 2 double clutches, 1 N, Susan, 1 ounce, 1 double clutch, 3 N, Pablo, a few ounce, but you didn't pay me. I've been a member for a couple of years and I'm still on the first place with ounce and double clutch. Linda, a few ounce, 2 double clutches, 1 N. Micki several, as I said, I always contribute with money to our funds here. Becky, congratulations. I loved your tabletop speech and no nothing. Thank you. Your record is getting there. Lynn, a couple of ounce and that's it. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay, I think we need to vote for best evaluator, right?
She just clarified.
Okay. So I will give my report on the meeting as a whole. I believe we did a superb job welcoming our guests. I noticed everyone recognized our guests, greeted our guests in the beginning. I did notice after I gavelled down, I gave a 2-minute warning and then I gavelled down, I noticed that there was still a little bit of talking. I don't know, perhaps I didn't gavel loud enough. So, need to try to make sure that when we hear the 2-minute warning that we're cognizant that the meeting's going to start, try to wrap up all of our conversations and be seated at our seats. We're usually pretty good about that. I think this was a very fun meeting. I really enjoyed this meeting. You did a superb job. I'm blown over. Your role as Toastmaster was awesome. The only suggestions that I can come up with for improvement would be related to organization. I feel like we could have been a little bit more organized in this meeting, specifically in confirming roles. I'm not sure, Jonathan, if you've sent out emails for confirmations or if you've received confirmations. I should have asked you before this meeting.
That was clear.
However, it does help the meeting run smoothly when we get confirmations, when we know we're going to be there. We can just go ahead and confirm and read our emails. If we know we're going to be fulfilling a role the next week, if we could just please make sure that we check our emails, confirm our roles, so that we're not canceling at the last minute, because that does cause some hiccups in the meeting. But we're very good about picking up and doing double duty when necessary. I want to say a special thank you to Charlie for jumping in at the last minute to fulfill the role of evaluator. I really appreciate that. And also, make sure not only send your introductions, that you bring your introductions with you if you're going to be introducing someone, that you have a printed copy. And the point of sending the person the introductions instead of bringing them to the meeting with you is so that the person introducing you has a chance to read the introduction, become familiar with the introduction before they get up here and try to read it. It just flows. It flows better. So make sure we prepare our introductions and we get our introductions before the meeting to the meeting participants that they need to go to. And I believe that is all I can think of. I really enjoyed this meeting, though. I thought it was very nice, very good meeting. Please help me welcome our president, Toni.
I have to say it, if you think I like to talk, wait till your incoming president gets up here. And I get the message. All right, let's vote for the most improved Toastmaster, and Patty will come by and pick up your recommendations. It can be, obviously everyone had a role in the meeting this evening. If you've been here before and you have an idea of who you would like to vote for, please do that. Otherwise, it's not necessary. And while you're voting for most improved, let's hear from our guests. Linda, how'd we do? What did you think about it?
Felt very welcome, and I think everybody did a good job, and it was enjoyable to get to know everyone. My big fear was that I wasn't going to be able to know whose names to do the tick marks when you said it, but I seemed to work that out pretty well, and I seem to have gotten to know everyone that way, so it was a success.
Thank you. Yeah, I wanted to say you did a great job listening for names and getting that absolutely accurate. Will we see you again?
I hope so.
You hope so? Okay, well, we hope so too.
There is another group within less than a mile of my house that I found out about, so I have to give them a chance.
Give them a
because
chance.
of the convenience, but I do like this group.
Give them a chance. All right, great. Pablo,
Yes.
what do you think?
I love it last week. I love it again this week, so I'm definitely going to be part of the group if you take me, but it's great being here. I really appreciate it.
Well, thank you very much. Julian's going to work with you to fill out the application before you leave.
Yes.
And you're going to be here.
Perfect, thank you.
And then after we cash the check, we let him know if he's accepted. We cash the check first.
We cash the check first. Well, so we'll see you back here next week.
Okay.
We do have an officer meeting following this meeting. I know there'll be some people absent, but let's go over to TGI Fridays, and mostly it's about the next 3 weeks of the meeting, so there isn't a lot to talk about, but a few items of business that we need to take care of. Anybody can join us if you like and participate. So welcome to everyone. Lynn, did you get any progress there with next week's agenda?
Our educational moment will be Pat Stogner. We have Julian, Charlie, Jonathan speaking again.
Julian too?
Yes. I will be table topics master, the fun role. We have Gail, Toni, Micki as evaluators, Roe, timer, Jessica, eye counter, Pat Stogner, grammarian. I need a vote counter, a general evaluator, and a Toastmaster. Stephen, Susan.
I can do something.
Okay.
You haven't been Toastmaster in a while, have you? Okay.
This is how we do it, volunteers.
Linda?
Can you have a guest vote counter?
Absolutely.
I'm sure. I have never done that role. That would be a good thing for me to do.
You'll just have to join.
And Susan, do you mind being the general evaluator?
Sure.
I appreciate it. So we have a full slate tomorrow, next week. Can't wait. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Just have a short time left, but does anyone have an announcement for the group? Going once, going twice? No. All right, Patty's table topics this evening? Well, we have rules here. And you know what? I don't give a damn tonight. I would like Julian, Lynn, and Jonathan to come up here. Did I scare them? Yes. Don't be scared. Without these three people, I did not realize, face the group, they were running almost the entire meeting. These are your award winners for the Tim Chastain Award. 3 people. That was a lot of work. Thank you. Most improved. Ready? Patty Herrera. Best Table Topics. Susan Morgan. Very good. I love it when it's the first. And Best Evaluator. Charlie Bombalier. Best Speaker. Stephen Morgan.
Oh, boy.
Boy, you heard that one. See you next week. The meeting is adjourned. Please help clean up the room. And get your manual.
Good job.